Oh, I know you propose an alliance between Constantine and Edward. That would be most amusing to you. No more amusing than that of Uhtred and Ethliad, or Eric. That touched a nerve. Osrith always remembered him as a gentle Northman. They had been imprisoned together at Cumbraland. He had died trying to flee Beamflout with Ethelfled, Siegfried killing him before Himselt. Ibg killed until a battle with the West Saxons. You know nothing of Eric, Ethelfled hissed, and raised a hand. Osrith thought she was going to strike her. Maybe it was the two swords. She felt bold, cocky, and didn't care what her words did. Elfrith was dead. Nine Fingers had taken her again. And there was the lady, uncaring, arrogant. I fought next to him, once, as he invaded Scotland. If she didn't know that, Osrith thought, grimly, she did now. I freed him from a prison cell we were both in. She touched her hair, finding the jewel that Eric had given to her. He gave me this, and I used it to escape our prison at Caerligwylid. A crowd was gathering, but Osrith did not care. It was the first time told anyone of that. So, I know a deal about Eric Thurgilson, Osrith concluded. And yes, if you wish an Anglarland, Edward should strike a bargain, and Mercia should feign blindness to its annexation. How dare you try to? Ethelfled's anger was now undisguised, and she stood in her stirrups and raised her riding crop. I did, Lady of the Mercens, Osrith pointed out, refusing to allow herself to be intimidated. I always thought the Mercens would have done better. Your father never did allow their royal house to return, did he? You have time left, to serve Mercia. Ethelfled seemed to have regained her composure, and was now issuing orders. I command you to protect my daughter Elflad. Command me? Asked Osrith scornfully. I ask you, for the love you bear your daughter, Pika and Thyra's daughter, protect mine. She is the future of Mercia. And there was the humility of a proud woman, Osrith thought. No wonder all the Mercens loved her, followed her. Willinki died for her. But Osrith was not one of them. She shrugged. I will do what I can. You are leaving? Ethelfled exclaimed, truly bewildered by a reality that she didn't believe was possible. And now to Osrith it seemed she believed something specific about her service to Mercia. You never specified that I must serve my 2 years at once. So, when I serve Mercia again, I will protect Elfwin. You have plenty of others who will do this. Not Elfrith, one of your most loyal, or you lady, though you play at soldiery. And that was it. There was the provocation. Enough for Lady Ethelfled to jump from her steed and stand on the ground, sword out of her scabbard in seconds. Fight me, Ethelfled demanded. Osrith said nothing. Fight me, Ethelfled demanded again. Around them, whispers and titters of laughter came from all around them, on the battlefield that was the foreground of the Ophiric. But Osrith turned away. Osrith only knew of Ethelfled's attempt on her life when, as boots squelched in the mud, Osrith turned back to see Uhtred's hand lowering the lady's arm. I will not be responsible for dismantling your father's work, Osrith told Ethelfled. But then a chant began, a chant of her name, only, Osrith, Osrith, and Osrith left, walking north, in the direction of Alba. From many directions over the battlefield came men, her Mercens, the Mormers, Owain, too, and the Strathclyde and Cumbrian men, who had answered Mercia's call. She had just turned to say something to Miral, about horses and provisions, when another man who had been following her. It was Finan. She stopped when she saw him, some distance from her warriors, and Finan advanced slowly. Osrith, Finan began. There is nothing to explain, Osrith told him. You are not the same man who held me down on the beach at Doia, nor tied me to a rock to let me drown. You are. And her warriors, who were watching, saw Finan take Osrith in his arms and kiss her, hardened for a very long time. I will come for you, Osrith, he promised, when we have Bibbenberg. It was a compromise, for Finan, a big compromise. But that didn't stop the being Senedd, and her marriage to him, and Edra and Finan Beak. There was nothing more to say, but there was more to be done. Miral, with Egelfrith, Oshir, Elfkin and Falkbald, crossed the field with horses and food for her and the Mormers. Whether they were their original ones, Osrith did not know. Finan called Uhtred, and the warrior turned, glancing at the body of his brother as he strode past it and to his lord beside him, Aethelstan, and a huge blonde Norseman, Bergskål Grimson, whose life he had saved on the beach at Tidjui. "We will see you again," Miriel told her. "You have a year and 8 months to serve. You will see me anytime Mercia needs me," Osrith promised. "It is safe, for now, but Don Shada may well not see it safe in the future, if Norse are allowed to collect on the shores of Irian again. If that's where Agnol ends up going. Why is it she is always riding away?" Finan asked Sihtric, who looked at his friend, with nothing to say. "So what was it you did to her?" Utad needled. Finan shook his head. "Come on, Sihtric," Utad told Kjartan's son, "we get Edith for our lord. And you, baby monk, help me bury my kin." But Sihtric didn't move. Instead, he pointed to the north. Osrith was riding back towards Eofric, and she was not alone. And she was surprised to see her nephew in the company of Utad's men, who had come all the way from Seistra at speed. Good, she thought, it would be good for Father Oswald to hear what she had to say. "Brother," Osrith said to Utad, and got down from her horse. "When I left Bibbenberg, I took this with me." "It was our father's," she told him, holding out Fed sword to him. "I spent months, years looking for you, to bring it to you. I searched and searched for you, and had it taken from me. It is yours." And into Utad's unguarded hand, Osrith placed the prized sword, the one belonging to their father, also Utad of Bibbenberg. Utad looked at it. What do I want with this?" Utad asked, scornfully, before throwing it back towards Osrith. She felt pain in her chest, but stooped to pick it up anyway, looking over its sinews and contours, thinking of the times she had dreamed of seeing it again. "I think it is a marvelous sword." Osrith looked up to see that, beside King Sigtryggr, her nephew was smiling at her. And then she did something she swore she would never do. She put it into the hands of someone who was not Utad. But, of course, he was. He was Utad, Utad's firstborn son. "It must be kept with the male bloodline," Osrith told him. And her nephew smiled at her. "Then I will, aunt," he told her, before leaning over and embracing her. Then, Osrith turned to Sigtryggr. "I know you will advance north," she told her nephew-in-law. "But do not go to Cumbraland, that country is mine." Sigtryggr could be forgiven for being taken aback. "Mine as widow of King Guthard, and is his." She nodded up to Owain, who had come with her. "I will speak to the king myself," Sigtryggr told her. "He will come to the wall," Osrith confirmed. "So, if you head directly north from here, you will get to Heavenfield. Constantine told me to tell you he will meet you there." But Sigtryggr was confused on one point, and wagged finger at Osrith, curiously. "If Cumbraland is yours, you should know Utad has, just now, send his man Sihtric, who has taken men in pursuit of Ragnall." "Understood," Osrith told him. "We are to go to the wall, now, to Caeliguilid, to return the men who were lent here." "This is where Ragnall headed," he conceded. And then took Osrith's hand in his, and shook it for a moment. "It is a pleasure to meet you once more, Osrith of Alba, that you survived childbirth, that your son is well." "Your children too," Osrith replied, and then allowed him to help her back onto her horse. 88,888,888. Just before they crossed the River Eden, outside Caeliguilid, a week after leaving Eofwick, Osrith called her men to her. They had left Abbot Findel and King Diffenwell's men at the city. Diffenwell, who had welcomed them, especially his son, at Cumbraland's capital, was there to offer the city more defences. "We just get men stand around by me?" she asked, and they did, Phelim, Engus and Owain, and also the 4 Gaels from Irian, who had decided to chance their luck with Constantine. "What have we gained, Osrith?" asked Eswi, looking behind him, Northumbria spreading out in all directions. "Bruises," she told him. "We know while Mercia accepts the tripartite alliance, it does not respect Caeliguilid. We have secured a king in Northumbria who will think before he attacks Alba, if he does at all. We have gold for Constantine." This Osrith had liberated from Mus, who had not been as careful as she had thought on hiding Osrith's money. "And Diffenwell is defending what was once although it won't be enough. For when Aethelstan comes north, which he will do, when he gains the Mercian and Wessex thrones. Is that what you will tell Constantine? Yes, we asked. When you give him the horse gold and silver that Diffenwell needs to defend Caerleguilade. You have seen, it will take more than 4 men to ride south and add ourselves to the Mercians. There is a king in Eothwic now, a king of Northumbria. That king, technically, owns to the Tuide, as you and I know. Constantine claims to the wall. And so, after eating and washing in the Aedan, they took the route Eric had with Osrith, northeast to the birth of the river Forth, and over to its northern bank, back to Alba,